Aloha. Let's talk about Gaza. We got Trump saying to clean them out, ethnic cleanse them, get them gone, give them to Jordan and Egypt. I don't understand why Trump keeps telling other countries they need to take Palestinians. You are the president of a whole ass country. You want somebody to take Palestinians? Put your hand up, take some Palestinians, bring them on over. You can do that. Quit telling other people to take people. They said they don't want to. They don't, but not that they don't want to take Palestinians. They don't want to help Israel ethnically cleanse Gaza. But anyway, we're going to have three stories. We got Democracy Now! Next is going to be First Post, and then Breaking Points. We're going to go over all three, talking about the same story, a little bit across the spectrum style. And then in the description, I'm going to have a little bit of an op-ed. I'm going to have an op-ed that I wrote about this situation and how the Green Party could or maybe would handle it. From my perspective, anyway, I don't represent the entire Green Party.
Displaced Palestinians are returning home to the north of Gaza for the first time since they were forced to flee their homes at the start of Israel's war on Gaza over a year ago. A river of people that stretched for miles walked north along Gaza's coastal road Monday, carrying what's left of their possessions.
It is a pretty looking
Most
beach.
Palestinians will be returning to find their homes reduced to rubble. The UN estimates 92% of homes in Gaza have been destroyed or damaged over the last 16 months. President Trump's facing accusations of supporting ethnic cleansing in Gaza after saying he wants to, quote, clean out the whole thing. Trump called for Egypt and Jordan to take in Palestinians living in Gaza while speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One Saturday. He told the reporters he'd spoken to King Abdullah of Jordan.
I said to him, I'd love you to take on more, because I'm looking at the whole Gaza Strip right now, and it's a mess. It's a real mess.
So you'd like Jordan to house people from Gaza?
To take people. I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General El-Sisi tomorrow, sometime, I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about probably 1.5 million people. And we just clean out that whole thing. It's it's over the centuries. That's many, many conflicts that site. And I don't know. It's something has to happen, but it's literally a demolition site right now. Almost everything's
centuries, many, many conflicts that side. Whenever you talk about the U.S., how the U.S. started to say, well, everybody's been fighting, been at war for all humankind. Yeah, so there's been wars for centuries everywhere, here, there, whatever. We're at a new time. We have technology. We know each other. We have cell phones and computers and stuff. Now we need to stop.
Demolished.
Egypt and Jordan have both rejected Trump's suggestion and emphasized a two-state solution ensuring Palestinian statehood is the only way forward. Hamas and displaced Palestinians in Gaza also rejected the idea of being forced out of Gaza. This is Magdi said.
I'm not there, but I'm more of a, I want an entire world Star Trek style, right? So I think more of a one-state solution would be better. But they're closer, Egypt and Jordan. And I'm not a Muslim, so I don't know, or a Jew, so I'm not anything like that. I don't know the details like they know the details. But I would think a one-state solution, I would think they should try to get, what do you call that? I would think the Middle East should try to bring back the Ottoman Empire. It'd just be one big country like Russia, China, the United States, right? And then as we have these bigger countries, but like China, go around and help people, stuff like that, right? Belt and Road stuff. China and Russia are already allies. We should ally. We should all be allies. And it's easier to work with a bigger country because you only got to sign one treaty rather than, I don't know how many countries are in the Middle East, but it's like 8 plus, maybe 15. I'm not sure, but there's more than 5. I know that.
A Palestinian waiting to return to northern Gaza.
The call by the U.S. president is completely rejected. Completely. If he thinks he will forcibly displace the Palestinian people, this is impossible. The Palestinian people firmly believe that this land is theirs. This soil is their soil. No matter how much Israel tries to destroy, break, and to show people that it had won, in reality, it did not win. It destroyed and ruined things and showed the people that it is a failed state.
Trump's suggestion that more than 1 million Palestinians should be moved out of Gaza to neighboring Arab states weren't his first controversial comments on Gaza since returning to office. Shortly after his inauguration last week, Trump said he's, quote, not confident the ceasefire will remain in place. He said Gaza appeared to be a, quote, massive demolition site that should be rebuilt.
You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location on the sea. Best weather, you know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting.
Trump is wild, man. We can go in.
We should have kept the oil, but okay, maybe we'll have another chance. What did you mean by that?
Well, we should have kept the oil when we got out. And, you know, it's very interesting. We've taken control of the oil in the Middle East, the oil that we're talking about, the oil that everybody was worried about. The U.S. has control of that.
So his little speech here just reminded me of those two things. Like Trump is all about telling the truth kind of on accident or saying the quiet part out loud, right?
You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location on the sea.
Location. Should have taken the oil.
Best weather. You know,
Best
everything's
weather.
good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting.
Beautiful things could be done with it.
Some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
What you gonna do
For
with
more
it?
on reactions to President Trump's calls to, quote, clean out Gaza, we're joined by the Emmy and Polk Award-winning Egyptian-American journalist Sharif Abdel-Qaddous. He works with Drop Site News and spent years reporting from Egypt as well as from Gaza and the West Bank. He was correspondent on Al Jazeera's Fault Lines documentary, The Night Won't End, Biden's War on Gaza, and did a Polk Award-winning documentary on the killing of the Palestinian-American journalist Sharif Abdel-Qaddous. Sharif, welcome back to Democracy Now! It's great to have you here. So these comments of Trump, the last ones echo his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who had said in the last year that Gaza is great beachfront property, talking about it as a kind of real estate deal.
For who, though?
Trump, most recently on Air Force One on Saturday night, saying that the more than 1 million Palestinians should be moved to Egypt and Jordan, that he spoke to the Jordanian king. Meanwhile, Jordan and Egypt talk about their responses and, most importantly, the response of Palestinians.
Well, both Jordan and Egypt have rejected this, and they've done so since the beginning of this genocidal assault. You know, these comments were welcomed by the far-right ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, who said, you know, this would be the voluntary emigration that
and set up by the right-wing Joe Biden. His war, like they've
been dreaming about for Palestinians to be forcibly displaced outside of Gaza and for them to rebuild Jewish settlements in Gaza. I think yes, we have to acknowledge what's happening today, which are these incredible scenes of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who have withstood an unprecedented genocidal assault, returning back to the north. We spoke at Drop Site to Mustafa Barghouti just a few days ago, and he said the return of forcibly displaced Palestinians to the north will be the ultimate defeat of Israeli plans, because it means that the goal of ethnic cleansing did not materialize. Let's remember what happened if we go back to October 7th, 2023, when Benjamin Netanyahu took to the airwaves and declared war on Gaza. He said, leave now, to the 2.3 million Palestinians who are living in Gaza. Just a few days later, we saw this shocking directive for all 1.1 million Palestinians who are north of Wadi Gaza to flee to the south. And we saw this unbelievable, unprecedented aerial bombing campaign, and many people forcibly displaced to the south, many of them to Rafah in the beginning. And let's not forget that at the time, Western governments, including the United States government under the Biden administration, were trying to persuade Egypt to take in hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, displace them in northern Sinai, offering economic incentives. There's reporting that shows that this was taking place. Egypt rejected it at the time, but more importantly, Palestinians rejected this. And then we saw them build what's called the Netzarim corridor, which bisected Gaza. This was a 6 or 7 kilometer wide strip of land. They completely depopulated, forcibly displaced, ethnically cleansed that area, destroyed almost all of the buildings there, set up military bases. And this was essentially, reporting shows in Haaretz, this was called a kill zone. Any man, woman, or child unarmed would enter. It's unclear where the border was of the Netzarim corridor. They would be shot and killed. And this was essentially the place that divided Gaza. Once you crossed there, you could not go back. We saw in October also a concentrated extermination campaign in the very north of Gaza, in Jabalia refugee camp, in Beit Hanun and Beit Lahia, where they completely did not allow any aid in, and then very systematically started attacking these towns and cities and forcing people out on essentially what were death marches to the south across the Netzarim corridor and back. And, you know, despite all of this, people withstood, they remained on their land, and now we're seeing these incredible scenes of people returning home. And to think that, you know, Trump can just say they should move to Egypt or Jordan, I think, you know, is preposterous, and we're seeing right now that
they look amazingly happy for what they've been through the past, what is it, 18 months, 16 months, or whatever, year and a half roughly. They look like some happy ass people coming back home.
This is kind of an ultimate defeat of the plans of ethnic cleansing that have dated back to the 1950s for Israel.
You always want to defeat the plans of ethnic cleansing. Never good.
Quote of Jared Kushner made months ago. That's Trump's son-in-law and former advisor weighing in on Israel's war on Gaza, saying Israel should move Palestinians out of the besieged territory, which he said contains very valuable waterfront property, making the remarks during an event hosted by the Middle East Initiative at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government.
In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to, if people would focus on kind of building up, you know, livelihoods. You think about all the money that's gone into this tunnel network and into all the munitions. If that would have gone into education or innovation, what could have been done? And so I think
the money we put into the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, imagine if we would have put it into education. All the money that we put in to the Iron Dome and the bombs and military aid we give Israel, if we gave them books in schools instead of bombs that they drop on Palestine. What in the world? These people are literally insane. That he can say this.
I think that it's a little bit of an unfortunate situation there, but I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up. But I don't think that Israel has stated that they don't want the people to move back there afterwards.
So that's a pretty amazing comment. Invaluable beachfront property. Earlier today, I was watching the Palestinian attorney Diana Boutou on Al Jazeera when asked about what Trump said. You know, I think all agree it does look like a demolition zone. There's no question about it. How can Palestinians live there? And she said, okay, if there's that question, rather than moving them to neighboring Arab states like Egypt and Jordan, what about Israel? Moving them home? She said 80% of the people of Gaza come from places in Israel.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is why Gaza has long been a site of resistance in historic Palestine and long been a place that Israel wants to ethnically cleanse, because it is the largest concentration of Palestinian refugees in historic Palestine. So there's always been a restive place. These people who, 80% of them or their descendants, want to return to their homes, which are mostly the towns and villages around Gaza. And like you said, this is now, they are returning in these really...
So if they want to return to their homes, which are throughout Israel, that's why I would think a one-state solution would be best, because you can't have a state with spots of houses, right? Like just Gaza, West Bank, and all of Israel be one state. But again, they should try to just become the Ottoman Empire again. Free roam, like what do you call it, the EU, like the United States. Get these sections of people big, right? And then we can start to intermingle more too, like overlap, like China does, man. China's going throughout the world just building, man.
incredible scenes that
go
we're seeing
throughout the
right
world
now.
destroying.
I mean, this is a flood of humanity.
People hugging who haven't seen, they've been separated from their family members, from mothers and fathers, separated from their children for 15 months, and they're reuniting for the first time. They never thought they would see each other again. But they are returning to, as you said, a devastated landscape.
Yes.
Nearly every house has been destroyed or badly damaged. The government authorities are telling people to bring their tents with them. There are not even enough tents for people to set up.
It looks like the wildfires in California
almost. And as we've been seeing in other parts as well, while Israel has violated the ceasefire nearly every single day, killing Palestinians, especially in Rafah, the death count, the official death count, has been also shooting up since the 19th, when the ceasefire went into effect, because dozens of bodies are being recovered from under the rubble. And so, I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of this as people search for their loved ones as they're returning to this devastated landscape. But they're determined not to leave their land, and many of them will set up tents on the rubble of their homes.
And then we go to the West Bank and what's happening there. We just spoke to Mariam Barghouti. You wrote a piece with her for Dropsite. If you can talk about the intensification of violence against Palestinians there.
Well, essentially what we saw soon after the ceasefire went into effect, a war on the West Bank, initially dubbed the Iron Wall. All of these things had been taking place already, attacks on Jenin, closures of checkpoints and so forth, but a massive escalation of this, to the likes of which we haven't seen since 2002, an invasion of Jenin. Right now they are demolishing the refugee camp, not just with bulldozers as we've seen in the past, they are actually detonating, the way they have done in Gaza, parts of this. 2,000 families have already been displaced. Across the West Bank, there was usually around 700 military checkpoints. Now there's close to 1,000. They've all closed down. Cities have been closed off from each other. People can't leave their towns and villages to go to school, to go to work. They're separated from each other. And so they're laying siege to the West Bank. And a lot of what we show in the reporting and what has been said was that this was a trade-off that Netanyahu trying to convince his ministers like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir to sign on to the Gaza ceasefire plan, that they would launch this kind of unprecedented military assault on the West Bank.
So now we go on to first post. This says 15,000 new fighters, Hamas rises again. So 15,000 new fighters, Hamas rises again. Let's see what they, right here. 15 months of fighting. 46,700 Gazans killed, plus 18,000 children among the fatalities. 110,000 Gazans injured. 85,000 tons of bombs dropped. That's why, man, everything is demolished. 1.9 million Gazans displaced. I wonder, because there was 2.3 million Gazans before, so did 0.4 million not get displaced, or are they gone? Like, because they said there was only 40,000-ish, what was it, 48,000, I think. But that's like 10 times the number. Or 1/10 the number, depending on which way you're going. 160,000 buildings destroyed. Yes, everything. Oh, there's a couple buildings, okay. Gaza in ruins, but Hamas alive. Mission failed. Benny Netanyahu.
Who wins a war? Is it the side that kills more people? Is it the side that destroys more enemy sites? Or is it the side that simply survives? In Gaza, this is a question worth looking at. When the war started, Israel had massive but vague goals. They wanted to eradicate Hamas, to destroy their fighters and their leadership. 15 months on, have they done that? Have they eradicated Hamas? The US does not think so. American intelligence reports suggest the opposite. Hamas has recruited up to 15,000 fighters since late 2023. Let me put that number in context. Israel believes it has killed 20,000 Hamas fighters in this war.
20,000.
But Hamas has added
15,000
in the same time. This is clearly not what Netanyahu had planned. He explained his goal in last year's United Nations address. He said Hamas has got to go.
If Hamas stays in power, it will regroup, rearm, and attack Israel again and again and again, as it is vowed to do. So Hamas has got to go.
But Hamas has not gone, though they are weaker than October 2023. Most of these new recruits are young fighters. They cannot be deployed in the battlefield. They can only do simple operations. Plus, a lot of their weapons and stockpiles have been depleted. So Hamas is weaker, yet Hamas is still in charge. They are parading the streets of Gaza. They're holding funerals, and their police officers are directing traffic. We saw an example of that last week, a Hamas show of strength in Gaza City. Take a look at this.
I don't understand. Like, if they really want to get rid of Hamas, how could there be something like this and they not like bomb it or whatever, right? Blow it up. But I mean, I'm not advocating for that. I want a one-state solution, but again, I may not know the best thing for them, so I could be wrong on that. But again, I want a one-world solution, to be honest, right? Everybody, we all live on the same planet. However, you have this parade of Hamas people. They will just blow up any building and just drop bombs and say, oh, we thought Hamas was there. We thought Hamas was there, killing anybody, all kinds of kids and women and stuff. But you pretty much know Hamas is right here. And you didn't blow that up. I guess this is during the ceasefires. I don't know if this is during the ceasefire or not. But geez, it just seems weird that you blow up buildings and schools, but you let a Hamas parade go. If your goal is to kill Hamas, right? Like if your goal is to end cheese pizza, you bomb pizza places, not chicken places. Dozens of Hamas fighters gather. Hamas takes charge of law and order.
Which makes you wonder, what did Israel achieve? Netanyahu was offered the same ceasefire deal in May 2024. He clearly did not like it, which is why he continued the war. But 7 months later, he has accepted the very same deal.
Same thing, same.
Who paid for this pointless delay? The people of Gaza. In May 2024, around 30,000 Gazans.
And the American taxpayers, we paid for it financially. They paid for it with blood and tears and all this.
Had been killed in this war. Today, the death toll is more than 46,000. That is the cost of Netanyahu's delay. 46,000 dead. He started this war without a realistic goal. Not only has he failed to eliminate Hamas, he killed innocent Gazans. Nearly 18,000 of the fatalities are children. Over 38,000 kids have been orphaned.
What was
fatalities are children.
Oh, I missed it.
Over 38,000 kids killed innocent Gazans. Nearly 18,000 of the fatalities are children. Over 38,000 kids have been orphaned.
So, she said they killed 20,000 Hamas soldiers, was their estimate. They killed 18,000 children. So they killed almost one child per Hamas person. And then they got 15,000 more Hamas fighters coming. So there was only a 5,000 person like loss or whatever. So Hamas truly only lost 5,000 fighters. Which is probably going to get a lot more because all these people have dead relatives and whatnot. So and then you killed all these kids. It doesn't make sense. This is what we're doing.
It's fertile ground for radicalization.
Like, look at that. I'm gonna put the Dick Cheney China video. He was talking to the former foreign relations minister of China. We go around the world doing this. He's talking mess to this Chinese minister, or former Chinese minister. I don't know if he was a minister at the time or not. But he's talking mess to this guy, talking about China building up and becoming rich, but not changing and not being more like the West, be more like us, like changing their habits and whatnot. And China's like, we don't want to be like you. We don't want to be this capitalistic hegemonic world power that thinks they run everything, because this is what we do. When you don't fall in line, comply or die. Like, we treat the rest of the world like cops treat black people in America. Like Palestinians, the Israel is your cops. You need to comply or we will blow your buildings up. Like, how is this okay? How is this better than China? China will go into your place and be like, look, we're gonna build it. We're not gonna tell you to change your thought process. All we want you to do is just trade with us. Once you got your stuff, we just want to have trade with people because that's how stuff works.
Maybe that's why Hamas recruitment numbers are up. The question is, what happens next? Well, we are in the early stages of the truce. Hamas is slowly releasing Israeli hostages and Israeli military is pulling out of Gaza. The result is a mass movement of people. Remember, thousands had fled northern Gaza when the war began. A lot of them are now coming back. Take a look at this.
Gazans head back north as truce holds, pushing cars. Tens of thousands returning on foot. See if Gazans head to northern Gaza.
The truce will expire on March 2nd. Gaza needs a political settlement before that. If not, the fighting could flare up again. There are no concrete deals on the table yet, only vague proposals. One of them came from President Donald Trump of the United States. He says, clear the whole place out.
Get him out.
What about the 2 million Gazans? Trump wants Egypt and Jordan to take them in.
I'd like Egypt to take people. I'm talking to General al-Sisi tomorrow, sometime, I believe. And I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. We're talking about probably 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. It's
we'll take the oil. We'll keep the oil.
Many conflicts at site.
Israel will love this plan, but Arab states have already rejected it. After all, Gaza is Palestinian land. Why should they be forced to leave it?
Right.
A second proposal was pushed by the former Biden regime. They wanted the Palestinian Authority, or the PA, to take over Gaza. Now, the PA rules over the West Bank. They are globally accepted, unlike Hamas. Reports say Arab countries also like this proposal, but chances are Israel and Hamas won't. Hamas says they are open to sharing power in Gaza, but they won't agree to being replaced completely. They want to be part of the government. Israel's concern is different. If the PA takes over Gaza, they could unify Palestinians. You wouldn't have two Palestinian power centers anymore, one in Gaza and one in the West Bank. They'll be united, and Israel won't like that. They prefer Palestinians to be divided. In fact, that is how Hamas grew. For years, Netanyahu...
That's how the West grew. The West divides people. We need to stop this. Our culture is crazy. China goes around building, and we're going to talk down about them, all these communists, and they talk about how, in that other video, he said China wants to help the people. Not just the Chinese people, but the world's people. I mean, and we go around the world causing destruction and mayhem. It's nonsense.
Supported and funded the Hamas. His goal was to weaken the PA, to split the Palestinian leadership. But if the PA takes over Gaza, that work could be undone. So Israel is facing some tough choices. This is what happens when you fight without goals.
No.
You could lose your battlefield gains on the negotiating table. Netanyahu is certainly headed that way. His only hope is Donald Trump. If Trump sides with the Arab nations, it's game over. Israel will have to cut a deal. But his recent remarks will give Netanyahu some confidence. The Israeli leader is expected to visit the U.S. in early February.
Some beachfront property.
He will be hoping to sway his old friend. That mission could decide the future of Israel, Gaza, and Netanyahu's political career. We're calling the...
All right, and we're going to listen to a little bit of the ladies from Breaking Points. We got Emily and Crystal.
So the key quote there is, he says he's going to talk to General Sisi of Egypt. He says, I'd like Egypt to take people, and I'd like Jordan to take people. You're talking about 1.5 million people. He's referring there to the entire population of the Gaza Strip. And we just clean out that whole thing. I mean, it's obviously brazen call for ethnic cleansing. And
a little bit crazy.
You know, this couples Emily with comments that both he and Jared Kushner made about, he kind of alluded to, he's like, oh, it's a demolition site. And previously he had said when he was in the Oval Office, you know, it's very interesting. They have all this beautiful, like, you know, coastline, et cetera. Kushner had talked before about waterfront development in Gaza. So, you know, as a capitalist real estate developer, he looks at Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and he sees dollar signs.
Money, money,
and
money, money.
Says, let's just push out all the people there entirely into Egypt and Jordan.
He said, this is one of the thing is with Trump,
Money
it's like,
over
this was the most galaxy brain, like libertarian smoking pot in their dorm room approach to the problem, where you're like,
people there entirely into Egypt and Jordan.
He said, this is one of the thing is with Trump, it's like, this was the most galaxy brain, like libertarians smoking pot in their dorm room approach to the problem, where you're like, oh, okay, so here's all of this rubble. We need to clean it out. Using the word clean, I mean, is like you use the word brazen. I think that's a great description. And he says towards the end of this, like
we're gonna take the oil, we're gonna keep the oil. Trump is brazen, if nothing else.
Answer that it could be temporary, it could be longer term, and it's like, dude, your idea is to take people off of the land that they have spilled so much blood over the years to stay on because it means something to them. The land itself is important to them, and that's the most basic takeaway from what's happened over like the decades that he references there, and the quote many, many conflicts that he references there, is it's specifically their homeland that they care about. So it's just sort of, it's so his realism like bumps into galaxy brain dorm room libertarianism. It's like, this is actually not that smart. It's missing the most basic reality of the situation.
Well, and bumping into developer brain too.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
There's a profit to be turned here. Like, I just got to get all these pesky people out of the way, clean that out, that whole thing. That's what he says. You're talking about 1.5 million people, and we just clean out that whole thing. You guys might remember back kind of early after October 7th, I don't remember exactly the time frame, I want to say it was like a couple months in, the Biden administration was floating, hey, Egypt, why don't we just, open up the borders here and let Palestinians flow into the Sinai Desert?
So Biden had the same idea as Trump, and she's one that'll act like the Democrats are different than the Republicans. I made a video, but I messed it up. I got to make it again. But it was her and Kyle and Mike Figueroa doing all this Democratic sycophant stuff. And you're going to sit here and expose the Democrats doing the same. They're the same people. It's one party. There's not even two parties. There's one party. You know it, but then you act like there isn't. So sad.
And set up camps for them there. And they were actively trying to basically bribe the Egyptians into accepting this. And obviously, Jordan already has a huge number of Palestinian refugees, has for years and years. The Queen of Jordan is herself Palestinian. And neither one of these countries wants to be party to ethnic cleansing, not to mention that, would be quite a lot for Egypt, which is already in kind of economic chaos, to take people in. So there was a huge backlash to that idea from a variety of sectors.
So again, Donald Trump runs a whole entire country. We have 350 million people in our country. If we took all, say, 2 million people, 1.9, 2 million people, that would be like a 0.75% increase in people or something. Put them in New Mexico, or let them spread throughout the country and have them, let's be a melting pot and let them melt in. Either way, but you have a country, Donald Trump, You control a country. Have the followers that you have, these MAGA people, they think you're God. You can do whatever you want. You can shoot somebody in the face on 5th Avenue in broad daylight. You said this. You can do these things, right? So you can pretty much do anything you feel like you want, at least inside the United States, but you don't control Jordan. You don't control Egypt. They don't look at you like that. I don't think you can shoot somebody in their country in the face in broad daylight and not get arrested, but you can here. So since you got so much control here, you can bring the people here. Go ahead. If you care so much about this beachfront property, go ahead and bring them here. Put them throughout the United States. Or shut up. It's not your business. You don't have, well, it is your business because we just bomb everybody and we give everybody weapons to kill everybody, but it shouldn't be our business. Like, we're not there. You ain't there. You go there because you're rich and you don't have borders. So everything's your business because you're rich enough to not have borders. But I'm rambling.
And so they kind of dropped that whole thing. But yeah, Trump just comes out and says a quiet part out loud that the basic plan, what he would like to see in effect here, is a wholesale ethnic cleansing. We have some additional Trump news here too from Axios. You could put this up on the screen.
Axios.
So I don't know if you guys remember, there was this one shipment of 2,000-pound bombs that the Biden administration had, like, as a token, withheld out of concerns for how they could be used in Rafah.
She told you to vote for these people.
Now,
as a token.
Now that there is this temporary ceasefire in effect, we've gotten a better look at Rafah, and some of the Biden administration cope was like, oh, well, we constrained them in Rafah and didn't let them do what they really wanted to do. Wrong. Rafah is utterly destroyed. But in any case, they did put this hold on the shipment of 2,000-pound bombs. And so even the sort of like token signs of upset at the way that Israel has conducted themselves in Gaza have been rolled back by Trump. Not just that, but also, Emily, you probably remember there were some like also token sanctions put on a handful of.
But again, that's why the Democrats ain't nothing. They do very small things that the Republicans can easily roll back. That's the whole point of all this. They're not sitting here trying to help you. They're trying to act like they're helping you. And the Republicans can either roll it back, cut it, do a tax cut, do this or that, or change it. And then the Republicans and Democrats just go back and forth with this little pity pat, acting like they're arguing with each other, fighting each other. And that's not what they're doing. They're fighting us. So, I mean, like, if you're not, I mean, I guess if you're watching my channel, you know, you're paying attention to politics more than most people. So, again, Green Party, Green Party, Green Party. You guys hopefully are going to call your local Green Party soon, or already have. If you have, let me know. Like, put in the comments and stuff, I called the Green Party, I'm going to do this. Right? Call your local Green Party and either run, or if, like, some people are shy, you don't want to run, cool. Like, volunteer, help out, donate, whatever. Make videos, or at least comment on videos, share videos, stuff like that. Get the word out. So we got Trump here trying to take people's land like imperialists do. And we need to stop doing things like that. And so, yeah, please just keep getting your information from across the spectrum.